All right, welcome back everyone. Today I want to talk about burnout. I was sitting here thinking about what kind of video can I make today, and that is something I wanted to talk about. In particular, some strategies that really help me reduce burnout in my own practice. But before we jump into those skills and tools, I want to at least share, and I'm really well aware of the fact that burnout can be a systemic issue. It's not just, make a couple adjustments on your own in your independent practice, your independent work, and things will be fine. I think burnout is much larger than just being on the individual level. Again, I think it's a systemic issue in many ways. With that being said, while we hope for and hopefully work towards much larger systemic changes that will help people deal with burnout and reduce burnout across all fields, I at least want to talk about some skill. I guess in the scheme of things, they're very small, but there are small things we can do to make our days a little easier, a little bit better, and even a small tweak can help reduce burnout just a little bit. And that's kind of what I want to share today. I'm actually going to just talk with you 4 things that I do. And these are anecdotal. These are things that work for me. I just wanted to share them with you. I hope they'll work for you as well. But they do help make my day a little bit easier, a little more streamlined. And I've noticed that they do help with burnout, even just a little bit. All right, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into some of these things. Let me share my screen with you real quick. I've jotted down a couple of notes, and here we go. So yeah, a couple strategies to help reduce burnout. Now this one, I guess actually, you know what? Don't click off the video after looking at that list. But when I think about burnout strategies, I think about 2 categories. I think about the kind of like the reactive category of skills and tools. This would be things like, we're feeling burnt out. We're feeling, this is just too much. A reactive intervention or strategy would be something you deploy in that regard. For example, maybe it's practicing mindfulness, doing a meditation, something like that. And then I also think about preventative strategies, right? So this might be something much larger, much more long-term. And maybe this is planning out days off throughout the year, so you have breaks that are set in, right? Now, not everything that we do to prevent burnout is going to fit into these 2 categories nicely, but I do like to think about it, generally speaking, reactive strategies, preventative strategies, because as it stands, burnout is not something we have a perfect cure for. It kind of comes and goes at times. So we want to do our best to prevent it and to, reduce the chances that we're going to deal with it. We also want to be ready to combat it when it comes. So the strategies we're going to talk about today kind of fall within both of those. I guess they fall into either of those categories. All right, but let's just jump in. All right, so the first one, this one's going to seem obvious. When I see these in videos, I typically just want to click off. But please don't do that. Let me just explain a little bit. So the first one is scheduling breaks and sticking to them. Why would I add this on here? This is because I was never really scheduling breaks into my day, especially as someone in private practice who owns their own business and makes their own hours. You're just thinking breaks will just happen, right? But that doesn't happen. In fact, in my experience, you're less likely to take breaks when you own your own business for the simple fact that they're not built in and you really get caught up. So up until, I don't remember how long it was, but I started to actually schedule a break into my calendar, typically a lunch break. And then I make sure there's a couple breaks throughout the day as well, shorter. My lunch break, 45 minutes or so, maybe about an hour. And then my breaks in between are about 15 minutes, when I have 1 or 2 of those throughout the day. And the key here, we all know that taking a break is helpful. Is it going to cure anything? No. But if we can consistently take breaks, we at least build in some time to do just that. Maybe it is, I don't know what you do on your breaks, right? But for me, I like to eat lunch, read something, just try to step away for a little bit. It helps me recharge just a bit. But the key here is scheduling. So making sure it's on your calendar and then sticking to it. The temptation is just to push it off, to not take it. You can just bear with it a little longer. But even if you feel like you don't need the break, take it. Okay. So scheduling breaks and sticking to it. I found this to be tremendously helpful. All right. The next one I have on here, setting daily expectations using a calendar and time blocking. So what do I mean by that? one thing I used to struggle with a lot was having expectations for my day that were far too high. So for example, I would want to see 5 or 6 clients, film an entire video, write this script. I mean, do all sorts of stuff. And I would be like, yeah, I can get all that done. Lo and behold, I could not get all that done, but I would not take breaks. I would not stop. I would try my best to get it all done. But when I sat back for a moment and just reflected, if I just kind of took a minute to estimate how long that would take, right? All the things I wanted to get done in any given day, if I just sat down and reflected on, if just a quick estimate, how long would it take to do each of those things? It just mathematically did not fit within the day, right? So I was already setting myself up for failure. So instead of going into the days with just like these really high expectations, each night, it would only take 5 minutes. And I still do this. I will set daily expectations using my calendar. So I'll pull up my calendar view. I can already see my client sessions in there, right? So now I see that how long that will take exactly. It's visualized. And then I'm able to create events or time blocks on my calendar for the other things I want to get done. And again, I estimate how long it might take. And then I drop those into the calendar. Now I have a visual of how much time I have, how long my activities might take, and what's realistic. So when I start my day, I know realistically what I'm able to get done and what I'm not. Now, of course, there's some flexibility in there. Some things pop up last minute, or maybe something takes longer than you think. But at the very end of the day, having that visualization has been tremendously helpful, not only for making my expectations more realistic, which helps me not to get so overwhelmed or overworked when I don't get everything done, but it also allows me to see that actually there's time for those things maybe down the line, right? So if I have one day where I want to see clients and film a whole YouTube video and I realize that's not going to work out, having the calendar out, I can say, okay, I do my clients today. I can make a video Thursday, whatever the case may be. So it puts me at ease and says, okay, I'll still get it done, just not today, right? So that has been really helpful. And again, it's being consistent with that and doing it every day, even when we feel like we don't have to. All right. Number 3, spending time learning technology. That's worded really poorly. Spending time learning technology that is tough up front, but streamlines workflows in the long run. I put an example, AI tools. What do I mean by this? Well, there's a whole bunch of tools out there that could potentially help us streamline our workflows. Let me just give you, a quick example here. So, I make YouTube videos. Obviously, you're watching it now, and one of the challenging parts of making a YouTube video is coming up with ideas, right? And before, I would just kind of think about it. Maybe if I was going for a run, throughout the week, I would just kind of think about topics. And, sometimes topics come right away and other times they don't. And for a while, people had said, oh, you could use like ChatGPT to help you write scripts and to come up with ideas. And I knew like that would potentially be helpful, but I didn't want to spend the time learning ChatGPT, right? I know it seems easy. You just kind of log in and type things in, but there's a whole way to work with it effectively. And I just didn't want to learn it. Right. But eventually I decided to spend the time, sit down, watch videos, learn about ChatGPT, and I've been using it. And although it was a lot of work up front to learn it, it's now helping me streamline that process of making videos and writing scripts. For some people, it might be something like learning how to use an EHR. So if you're someone who is just kind of taking notes or keeping client documentation on paper or whatever, you might be saying, I don't want to learn the technology to streamline the process. It's going to take too long to learn. But the investment of time in learning technology that could help you in the long run, I do think is a worthwhile investment, and over time really does help prevent a lot of stress. Let's say you're someone who's been on paper records, it might take you a couple weeks to really learn something like Simple Practice or Jane software, an EHR. And you might feel like it's such a waste of time. I could just keep writing my notes by hand. But if you actually invest the time, although it will be stressful in that short term, it's going to be tremendously helpful in the long term. So AI tools was just one example. My keyboard is frozen here. EHRs is another example. I mean, there's tons of things out there that are like this. But if you find yourself using antiquated methods to get your work done, think about and actually you can do some research into new methods that are available to you, right? Perhaps you already know. A lot of times we already know the new methods. We just don't want to learn them, all right? So that's another thing that's really helped me in the long run. And then this number 4 is actually a little bit more complicated than it looks. So we'll kind of talk about this for a moment. So I have it titled Developing Systems and Tools for Greater Efficiency. Let's go through this one by one. So the first thing is kind of developing some sort of task management system. All right. A lot of times people just keep tasks in their head or they write them on Post-it notes, but we need some sort of method or structure or program for capturing all the tasks that we need to do. Right now, I'm a therapist in private practice. If you're watching this, you most likely are too. A lot of people watch this channel who are therapists. But if you're anyone in life, we all have tasks. Anything from work tasks to personal tasks, whatever it might be. And sometimes we get by just letting those tasks live in our head, but that takes up a lot of bandwidth. You have to remember. You don't want to forget. So you want to kind of develop a place for those tasks to live. I personally use a system called Notion. I've made a lot of videos about this, but it can be anything. It could be a Post-it note. It could be a journal. I recommend learning a tool like Notion because it's built for task management stuff. But really what we're talking about is spending time to build out a tool that can hold your tasks, right? That way they go from here into the system. I'm pointing to the floor, but into a system, right? And that's a worthwhile investment in time, thinking about that sort of task management system, all right? If you want to check out Notion, you can. I think it's a great idea. But again, broadly speaking, we're looking for a tool to at least write down our tasks. From there, we also need a methodology for organizing those tasks. So let's just imagine for a moment in my Notion database, I have 10 tasks written down. Let's just make it up. Grocery shopping, reading for work, seeing clients, picking up child at daycare. Let's imagine we have those, right? Now, some of them are very obvious, like we know how to prioritize them, but others we might not know how to prioritize. Some things are not very easy to prioritize, right? And so we have to, the system, I'm talking about categorized tasks, we can call it that, but I guess we can also say prioritize, right? Prioritize. I can't spell. All right, there we go. And one system that I've adopted that really helps me is the Eisenhower matrix. Now, I don't know if you've heard about this, but this is named after the former president of the United States, who apparently was really good at time management. And basically, I'll leave a link down below to the Eisenhower matrix. But basically, it's like it's a square in quadrants. It's a matrix. I'm not a math person, and it's a way where you can take a task, run it through the matrix. It takes like 2 seconds, and when you do that, you're deciding whether a task is urgent or important. And based on the criteria, you can decide, do I do it now or do I schedule it for later? And this video is not to go dive deep into that. I'll leave a link to my other video about it down below. I have a video that details the whole thing. But what I'm talking about here is finding a system to help you prioritize your tasks. That way we don't have to think too much about when to do them. We have a system for deciding that for us. And then finally, we want a calendar. So once we organize and prioritize our tasks, we want to drop them in the calendar. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about up here with time blocking. So if I've got my whole list of tasks and it's the end of the day and I'm preparing for the next day, I prioritize my tasks, got them listed out. I can now drop them in the calendar in various spots where they fit and based off of priority. This is a much longer kind of methodology for reducing burnout and helping things, but I've found that to be tremendously helpful. So these are just 4 strategies that I've been using that have helped me reduce burnout on the individual level. If you find this helpful, you want to know more about these things, please let me know. Leave a comment down below. If you want a whole series on burnout, I would be interested in talking more about that. But today, I just wanted to give some practical things that help me and let you know about them. If you are interested in working with me directly, you want to kind of have more attention than just the videos that come out on YouTube, consider signing up for the consultation group I run. There's a link for that down below in the description. That is an online community where you can ask questions. I respond to each and every one individually. There's also tutorials on there as well. Anyway, I hope this video is helpful for you. At the very least, I hope it inspires you to really thrive in your private practice. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you soon.